Good evening, everyone.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome back. Welcome back to Unveil Paranormal Podcast. We're excited to see you all tonight. How's it
Yes, for
going,
sure.
Brad?
Doing good. Had a very, very busy week. I actually moved out of my parents' house for the first time ever. Adulting, yay! And
Proud of you.
I've been doing that all week. So I had to come back here to do the show because we don't have Wi-Fi yet at the apartment. So this will be should be my last week doing the show from this location. But I'm
Awesome.
excited. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody that has jumped in here already. Go ahead and say hello to us in the comments so we know you're here. We have a very special guest tonight, Brad. Would
Yeah.
you like to introduce our guest for tonight?
I would love to. It is one of my favorite paranormal peeps, one of my paranormal brothers from another mother. It's my good friend Matthew Jackson.
Hello,
Mm.
welcome.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on, sir?
Man, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to get on and chat with you guys. I never knew that we were brothers, though, Brad. I thought we were like sisters from another mister, but we're
Oh,
paranormal bros. I didn't know, man.
I'm good with all of it. Paranormal siblings from. Let me come up with something clever.
Uh,
I'll,
don't
I'll,
hurt yourself.
I'll keep thinking on that.
So, how are you guys this evening?
Doing well, doing well.
You guys staying out of trouble?
We're trying to keep our nose clean and
All right.
not not drink too much of the paranormal tea or join the cults.
As long as Brad behaves, I behave.
Makes sense.
It's
Hey,
usually Brad
Joseph.
the starter.
Uh,
Welcome, Joseph. We appreciate
Yep.
you.
Welcome for joining us, Joseph. But yeah,
all right.
so tell us about yourself, Matthew Jackson.
You're gonna talk to
Are
him
you
like
gonna
that.
are you gonna call me by my full
Matthew
name
Jack.
the
I'm going to call you
whole
by your
episode?
full name the entire
Can we
episode.
get your middle name while we're at it?
Yeah, Daniel, just throw it in there.
Okay, cool.
Man, all right. So about me, you guys know my full name. So social security number is.
Oh my
I, I'm a late bloomer to the paranormal. A lot of people talk about how they have these crazy experiences as like kids and so forth, but it really wasn't until I was about 29 years old that I had a profound experience that kind of put the paranormal on the map for me. And it was in 2003 when I was at a friend of mine's house. It wasn't even it wasn't like a paranormal anything. It was a cookout. And anyway, I was standing on his deck, and he always told me that his house was haunted. And I just thought it was, he was just being silly, having some fun or whatever. And anyway, at one point during the cookout, something whispered in my ear, and I thought it was the gal that was standing next to me, but she heard the whisper as well. And we kind of
Mm.
had this moment. We turned to each other and had this moment of, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And at that moment, my glass of water that was sitting there just like popped up and like flew past us and threw water all over both of us. And there's no one else standing there. I mean, it was just her and I. And my buddy that was sitting across the deck, he just said, "Yeah, that's just the ghost. That kind of shit happens all the time." We allowed to cuss.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
You are allowed to say whatever you'd like.
yeah, it freaked me out. For someone that, like I said, that stuff wasn't even on my radar. I left promptly thereafter, and which really got me thinking, like, what is a ghost even? What does that really mean, and so forth. And upon talking to my buddy, I found out a little history on his property and found out that back in 1970, his home was the scene of an unsolved murder mystery.
Oh, cool.
And
Well,
yeah,
not cool,
and
but cool.
right, right. And so of course that folklore or that history perpetuates the idea that that property could possibly be haunted. And what really struck me is the mystery that's unsolved is the murder victim's identity. The person who
Oh
committed the
wow.
murder, everybody knows. And I actually knew that story. I heard it my whole life because the guy who actually committed the murder was one of my grandfather's best friends.
Oh wow.
So I made all those connections in my mind, and it just sent me down the rabbit hole of exploring the paranormal and so forth. And then, I had this thought that the whisper in my ear, what if that was the guy trying to tell me his name?
Hmm.
So it got me more interested
Mm.
in like the audio side of exploring these concepts and so forth, which really sent me headfirst into like EVP work and just kind of opened the doors to instrumental transcommunication that people call ITC. And so that's kind of been my wheelhouse ever since. It's always been finding the history of the locations and then doing these audio experiments to try to connect those dots. And I thought once upon a time that this little cute bow would go over like, said property had said tragedy, and therefore paranormal happens. But then you start running into these things where it's like, oh, the ghost lore doesn't match up to the history,
Hmm.
and the ghost stories are all made up, but something is
Hmm.
still perpetuating the ideas of the ghost and like carrying out and enacting these expectations. And
Hmm.
so that just sent me even further down the rabbit hole. And so fast forward, 2003 to now, I'm crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
I've investigated with him. Yeah.
yeah.
Really?
And so yeah, it's been a very enlightening journey. And
Hmm.
so yeah, that's kind of how it all started for me.
Yeah, and
Well,
the location, was I at the location with you when you were talking about the ghost story wasn't matching what was there? Was that the house in Cayuga?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yep, that is one of them. But I have found that like time and time again in a lot of places.
Mm.
One of my favorite examples is in Radford, Virginia, at the St. Albans Sanatorium. I don't know if
Hmm.
either of you have ever been there or not, but there's a
No, not
room in the
yet.
hospital, a room in the hospital they call Donald's room. And the story goes that Donald was an orderly or nurse or custodian that worked in the hospital years and years ago, and it was a TB hospital and a asylum, and started off as a boys' school. But anyway, the story goes that Donald molested and killed a young boy.
Mm.
And anyway, this room, you can go in and encounter this entity that calls himself Donald, and he is the most sarcastic, perverted ghost I have ever spoken with, hands down. I'll never ever forget Donald and the shit he would say to people, just mind blowing.
Wow.
And yeah, and then you go across the hall. There's a room that they call Jacob's room, and this little boy will come and talk to you.
Hmm.
Well, it's fascinating. I've documented these conversations, then later found out there's no proof that these guys ever existed.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's like, how much of this is opera?
Hmm.
This performative thing that happens that for some reason, these entities that are willing to facilitate these storylines, they must gain something from it.
Hmm.
And so, and I believe it's our attention and our energy that we give them. And because there was even one ITC response that I got during one of those sessions when I was, I think, still in Donald's room, and I started asking for Jacob. And I didn't hear this my first review. Actually, my buddy Gene Caswell picked up on this. There was a response there that said, "Go be him." Which
Mm.
in my mind hit me like a 2-ton heavy thing. It's like, whoa, he's telling him to pick up the script and like, okay, it's your turn to be Jacob. I was Jacob yesterday, and
Hmm.
this is kind of the impression that I got in the moment. So time and time again, I've stumbled into these moments where it's just like, I don't think what we're doing is quite what we think we're doing a lot of the times. So yeah, so it's really led me into the idea of just like idealism and how consciousness constructs everything. And if, consciousness is part of the electromagnetic field of the planet, well, guess what? You could probably get an EVP or an ITC response anywhere. And it's just like, how much does the location actually matter? And so I've been exploring and playing with those ideas for quite some time now. And I've found that certain special locations give special results. So I do
Hmm.
think that there's something there, and a lot of these locations that we're aware of. But man, I've had incredible results right here in my basement. So it's been a wild ride, man. I've really learned a lot, but I still know nothing. I'm just still exploring the ideas, you know.
Yeah.
It's been surprising. It's been surprising.
What does ITC stand for again? Emil would like to know.
Instrumental trans communication. So ITC is kind of like anything that we use to try to get a voice or communication with another, you know, a ghost, a spirit, or you know what have you. So that's just the kind of the umbrella term that includes like EVP work is a form of
Hmm.
ITC. Most ITC methods you think of, you know, EVPs are something typically heard upon review. A lot of ITC methods are based upon trying to have real time communication, like in
Right.
the moment. And so, I mean,
Like
that's basically it.
like
Getting
the use of
voices
like
of,
like the use of like a Frank's box or
yeah, yeah,
like actual pieces of equipment that you can have back and forth conversations with.
right. That's the goal.
And I want to back up for a second because
I
keeping
know
up with
I
your
threw a lot at you guys.
keeping up with your ideology, because it's what you're explaining and saying about going into these locations and like basically there's a script. This is like the first time I've really heard this theory, so I'm
Hmm.
fascinated at this point. Um, I wonder because I don't know. Do you believe in mediumship or anything like that? Psychics, mediums, any of that? You think that's all hogwash?
Don't think any of it's hogwash. As a matter of
Okay,
fact, I think it's intrinsically related to everything I just said about consciousness and so forth. You know, the devices are just like our electronic mediums. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
goal. So
okay,
Hmm.
you have people that are more tuned in. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
okay. No, you're good. I want to clarify that because I practice mediumship. So I'm thinking about when you're talking about this, kind of how I always try to go in blind when I go into these places, but you're also talking about having information in the consciousness. And what it sounds like to me is that it's basically emitting onto our devices. Like if you have knowledge of a location, like say the Daniel, everybody knows about Daniel. Well, they go there and then is it the ghosts that are causing the Daniel or is it our consciousness? Are we manifesting these
It's
spirits?
a
What do you think? I'm curious.
it's a dance. It's
Yeah.
both of us. It's both of us.
Hmm.
It's our expectation and our consciousness and whatever there is in the ether, whatever other we may be encountering. You know, we science can prove that we are able to register our consciousness or our thoughts or brain waves outside of our physical body. I mean, that's proven. And
Hmm.
so if we can emit the you know thoughts our thoughts are energy. If we're emitting this and you're dealing with someone who is essentially a form of energy, what makes us think that they cannot you know pick up and read on exactly what we're thinking our expectations are? And you know, and if they're parasitic in nature, you know, why wouldn't they encourage us to keep feeding them more? And that's not to
Yeah.
say that everything's evil, everything's malevolent. I'm not going down that road. I'm just saying that, you know, there might be instances where they're able to do that or they're doing that and they don't even know what they're doing on their end, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Very cool.
that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I That totally sounds like it. Very plausible. I like that. I thinking like that.
Well, because nothing else, no other like paradigm has really worked for me because I've gotten this incredible data and evidence from all these locations and things just weren't matching up. So the more I've explored these different topics and the more experiments that I've done, like I said, even at my own house with my cabin sessions that I've done and so forth, it's just like it's really the only way that it really starts to fall into place. Other than that, it's just like the stories and you know traditions have been held down, you know, handed down from other cultures where we've gotten all these ideas, and then the wild paranormal community and the YouTubers and the clickbait and the TV shows I mean, I think it's really kind of bastardized any real research from moving forward for a while because, people just seem to pursue sensationalism at this point versus,
Mm-hmm.
hard work. And so I've been kind of quietly in the shadows or in my basement, doing some, fairly deep, provoking things that has just, blown my mind more so than, uh, I guess from like typical ghost hunting, and but I think
Mm-hmm.
it all belongs. I think it's all played a part of, the foundation of my development and understanding of, you know, what happens to us possibly after I die or what else is out there. So it's been pretty eye-opening, to be honest.
Yeah. The paranormal in general is full of mostly theories and not proof. So that's kind of the beauty of
Yeah.
what we do
Mm-hmm.
and how we go about investigating. And that's what one thing that keeps some of us doing this is because we love the mystery. So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to have those experiences. It's exciting when you do connect the dots and you do
Mm-hmm.
get like accurate information about, historical stuff. I mean, pretty recently, got to go back to the Candlelight House in Franklin. I'm friends with the owners there,
Mm-hmm.
and I took along with me a couple of the guys that I first ever investigated with. And back then, we called ourselves Soup, a Society of Unexplained Phenomenon, and it's Craig and Todd Smith. And I took them there for the first time. And back when I investigated with those guys, I mean, they're very skeptical of a lot of the devices that we see being used
Mm-hmm.
in investigations, and they were really leery of like the ghost boxes and all the issues that they can bring to the table. And so we never really played around too much with those types of devices. But when we went to the Candlelight House, I brought something new, something they had never seen before, which is Prism. And Prism is unlike any other ITC methodology out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up Prism, and the interesting thing was we got this reply that it doesn't seem like it's much, but when you put it to the context of the history of the home, and at one point there were like three elderly sisters that lived in this house,
okay.
and at one point Craig asked them the question, "What kind of car did you drive?" And we got this response that came through Prism that said, "We didn't have a car, never. We got rides with the neighbors."
Hmm.
And I mean, just so matter of fact, it was just amazing to hear that. And so later, upon doing some research and asking the owners about the family that once lived there and so forth, turns out they didn't have a car. They got rides with the neighbors. That's how they got to church, and one of the sisters died in the middle of the night. And the one sister, I guess they shared a bed, and she like laid in bed with her dead sister all night long and waited until morning because not only did they not have
Wow.
a car, they didn't have a phone. She had to
Oh
walk
shit.
to the neighbors to get help, because their sister passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And, like none of that's earth shattering except for the fact that it came through at the location using, an ITC device. And to me, it was just a remarkable discovery about the whole thing. And what really also struck me is it showed a sequence. It's like whomever we were talking to, which I think it may have been the sister Alpha or Lena, but anyway, um, it showed like it was in the past. It was like a memory. It's like we didn't have a car. That's past tense. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like it showed they were aware of we were in the time that we were in at that moment. It's not like
Right.
they were
It was still.
stuck or
It was
or
still
or
in the moment.
trapped
Yeah.
or trapped back in the 1950s or whenever it would have been. They were
Yeah.
present with us there. So just kind of a beautiful thing the way that all came together.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Emil, I will share your question, and then Joseph, I did see your question, but I'm gonna grab Emil's real quick first because we're talking about the prism. He wants to know what the prism is and how does one obtain said prism.
Hmm.
Prism was actually developed by audio scientist Joshua Shawn, who runs the Zero G ITC out of California. And he and I have become great friends over the past few years. And Prism is something that he basically had the idea for like years and years ago, but technology wasn't there to be able to implement the idea. So now that technology's kind of caught up to his brain, so to speak, he's basically he's been researching and been putting Prism together, and he's allowing me to take it out and showcase it. And it's still in like the prototype phase, so
Hmm.
it's not like totally done, and so it's not something that's really available to anybody can like buy Prism or whatever.
Hmm.
But it is like a completely closed system. Like everything that a skeptic would have to, balk about ITC work, like ghost boxes are still connected to radio, so you get radio chatter, and all the different ideas you can have about like contamination.
Hmm.
But Prism does not have like an internet connection. There's no radio. There's no like software that has like words in it. It's just basically it's basically like frequencies that are ran through processing like you would for like human vocals, and through that filtering process and the palette of frequencies that he's like measured scientifically. It's probably the most scientifically researched ITC method like ever in the world, I mean, to be honest. And voices are coming through. I mean, there's no reason on earth why these voices should be there. So it's all done through like digital processing, but like I said, closed system, and it's super conversational. I was getting it tuned up and listening to it some tonight, and before I even turned down the volume, it was already saying Matthew, 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 and it's just like,
Really?
holy cow! I'll get with you later. I got a
Hmm.
Yeah.
show to do. But so when you think about it from the big picture, and you think about people who are dismissive of the paranormal, and saying there's no proof and there's no evidence, and things like that, and then you have a system like this that's been developed by a scientist. It's all scientifically measured and thought out, and when you take in consideration that there's no internet, there's no software for words, it's all audio software, and we're getting voices through it. It's crazy,
Hmm.
absolutely crazy. So how do you deny that ITC is not real or not viable when I'm getting like intelligent, full-on conversations, and they're even asking me questions,
Oh
which
wow,
is
that's cool.
that's a super gotcha moment. Like I was at a place in Columbus, Indiana, called Viewpoint Books, Chapter Two, and as Prism was running, I asked, do you have any questions for us? Any messages, whatever? And this voice comes through and says, "What sort of work is this? This whole
Mm.
connecting."
Yeah.
And you think
Wow.
about that, that is chilling. So, I mean, they're even like on their side, like, what's happening here? How are we able to make this connection? So
Hmm.
the possibilities are just wild.
Does that Prism have a microphone? Amel
No,
asked. No.
nope, no microphone. It is totally a closed system. So you think about it, it's not even picking up my voice.
Yeah, so it's
So
not even hearing you.
how's it answering my questions? There's no, it doesn't take in the room resonances, nothing like that. So that makes it just, this thing is so well thought through and developed, and like I said, it's still in its infancy. And if you can go on to like my especially my Obscuravox site, that's where I do the majority of my writing for like about ITC. That's where I'm really showcasing a lot of the Prism sessions that I've released so far. So
It feels like it's interesting to me. It feels like a technology kind of form of mediumship through a
oh
device.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Because you're not connecting with your typical device. I don't know. It's This is interesting to me. I'm learning more and more about ITC tonight, so I didn't know that much about it before the show. So that's why I wanted you to explain it a little bit. So
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, and I'm not an expert. I'm just an experimenter, you know. And I've been
right.
fortunate enough. I've had so many great relationships with a lot of the spirit box builders. I mean, I have an incredible like ghost box collection. I mean, I love all that stuff, and I'm not dismissive of any of it. I think it all kind of belongs. But you know, Prism has just really kind of rocked me back on my heels because I can identify it as something so vastly different than anything I've ever worked with,
Mm,
and it's just getting started. And so it's kind of at the
right.
ground floor.
Good to be
Yeah.
in there in the infancy of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
spirit boxes, how many of those did you bring with you that time we went to Fox Hollow? You had like a whole like pool table full.
You know, I actually think because the time I met you at Willow's Weep, and we
Mm,
were going to you know, supposed to be like a little mini Paracon, and I was supposed to do an ITC presentation. I brought like a buttload of freaking ghost boxes to that, and
mm,
of course the presentation didn't happen, but yeah, I had quite a few, man. I
yeah,
it's
that
so
was.
weird because I kind of got the idea a few years ago just from, you know, different. I've always said that my different devices have different personalities, and
Mm,
sometimes if I feel like one device wasn't really resonating with a location, I'd grab another.
mm,
It's kind of
yep,
like fishing, you know, grabbing a different lure.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That was a very fun. Both of those investigations were awesome. Willow's Weep was fun, and then Fox Hollow was a crazy night at Fox Hollow.
Dude, that night was transformative for me in many ways. Not only did we catch that crazy EVP there in the bathroom closet area,
Hmm.
but you remember the footsteps and everything that were in the room beside us, and
Yep,
we felt like it was walking towards us,
yep,
and
yep.
so that was wild. But you know, it was really the one session we did out in the woods that really got me because when I went back and reviewed that, there were so many just homoerotic, explicit messages that came through that session that
Hmm.
there is no way that was radio.
Right. Yeah. No.
Absolutely
Yeah.
no
Definitely
way.
not.
And then dropping names of different victims.
Hmm.
And you know, and I don't know what it was about her, but he must have had like a fetish for Allens.
Allen's
There's so
exactly.
many different Allens.
Yeah,
And
and
we got
it's
Allen multiple times during that night.
yep.
And you know, that's not a super common name that you hear on the
Even,
radio a lot.
yeah, even in like the '80s and '90s, I mean, it was common, but it wasn't all first names. Some of it was a
Yeah.
middle named Allen,
Middle
last name
names. Yeah.
Allen, first
Yeah.
name Allen. There hadn't been a connect. I've said it, and people are like, it was just a common name. I think there's more than that. I
Yeah.
truly think there's more to it than just a common name.
I wonder if there's a trauma reason why Herb goes for that name, so to speak. You know, just think about psychology wise. Like, is there something when he meets somebody and they mention the name Alan that he's just triggered? You know what I mean?
It could have been.
I don't know. Or he just started a I was gonna make an alphabet joke. Let's move on. Let's
Oh,
he goes start at the A's. Never
Woo!
mind.
At least you didn't get to the bees.
Brad.
Woo!
oh, Brad.
Well, but what's funny is the night we were there at Fox Hollow, we heard my mom's name,
Oh,
which
that's
is
right.
super uncommon, come through the
Yeah.
box. And my
Hmm.
mom actually knew Herb. Like, my, I'm not.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, like my mom worked here on the east side, and Herb had a mortgage on Fox Hollow with her company, and she had to talk to him every month. So my mom had
That's
knowledge of him
crazy.
and had talked to him. So
Wow.
her name
That's
coming through
crazy.
could have been weird, but like I said, my mom
Yeah.
has a really super uncommon name. But yeah,
Crazy.
that was
Crazy.
my last time ever getting to go to Fox Hollow too. But
Yeah, that was my only time, man. So I really appreciate the invite that you and Tiny and everybody gave me and gave me
yeah,
the opportunity to get there. So I felt pretty fortunate to get in there.
and almost all of us got sick that night too. At some point, like had some
Oh,
kind
that's
of
right.
yeah. And John was the
Yeah.
only one that didn't get sick.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was incredible. Incredible
Yep.
night.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to see the videos, they're on Paraholics YouTube page still.
Yeah, and well, and I forget what you guys call yourself. No
Oh,
nonsense.
yeah, yep, no nonsense
Yeah,
paranormal. Yep,
you guys put out a video too about that same night.
yep,
But
we
that
did.
EVP, when we asked who just came in the room, I mean, it was like, with those stupid old Panasonic recorders, it's so hard to get anything remotely close to a Class
Mm-hmm.
A EVP. But that was about as clear as an EVP you could get one of those things. And it, plain as day, hands down, said the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I remember we were all freaking out that night because when I reviewed it, I'm like, I made everybody come listen to it, and everybody agreed what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was intense.
Yep, yeah, that was a fun night. Oh, I miss that place.
Yeah.
I would love to have gotten the opportunity to go there. I'm hoping one day I can.
And
Yeah.
Brad, did you know that I got to go to the old 501, Eagle 501, the gay bar where her picked up some of
Oh,
his
wow.
victims?
No, I didn't know
I
you.
got to go there and actually got some Fox Hollow references said to me in the 501.
Oh, wow.
So
Cool. I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huh.
That was a very interesting night too.
Very
Awesome.
neat.
Yeah.
Joseph would like to know, is there any type of tool in the paranormal you won't use? So paranormal equipment or metaphysical stuff, any of that?
Probably not a popular response, but I'll answer it. I hate SLS cameras. I despise them, but that's me. And the
Yep.
only reason is because I owned one. And when I have a piece of equipment, I will test it to the limit and I want it to work. I want it
Mm-hmm.
to work. But I quickly learned with the SLS that I could make a stick figure appear just about anywhere. But one
Mm-hmm.
place I couldn't, and that would be in an open area. It always had to be against the surface.
And have
And almost
flat
every,
surface. Yep.
yeah, and almost any time that something would appear, it would always be the dimensions of the flat surface it was on. So if you
Right.
believe in refrigerator sized ghost or pantry sized ghost or wall sized ghost, the SLS camera is the device for you. But so once I figured out that it just was a like a false positive generator, I was like, man, I'm so done with this thing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's probably the one that I will not.
I can agree with that. I'm not a huge fan.
So I'm gonna assume you got a little winky face from
I just
Austin.
saw Austin.
Yep.
I assume
The
you
answer
guys
is
know each other.
no, never heard of him. Block him. No, yeah, he's a friend of mine. The
What's up?
answer is yes, Austin. I would. I need to
I'll
do
come
that,
too. I love all those
and
locations.
I'm bringing Brad. So yeah,
Sweet.
that's
I'm
hilarious.
on the way to most of them. And we can stop
I
by and get her too.
Yeah.
I live like
Hey,
right near his locations.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna
Literally,
say
she
yeah,
does.
that'd be super easy for you, Clarissa, to get to his
Mhm.
places. They're all about
Yeah.
4 hours or so for me, I think.
Yeah, he makes some really compelling devices too. I've seen. So
I have several of Austin's devices, and they are excellent. So, if you are looking for a ghost box and you want a unique custom build, Austin is the hookup.
I still have that box I want you to build for me, Austin. So I still have the radio and it's still sitting here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had to go and speak. Actually, it was kind of a weird opportunity. Speak at a local high school about being a paranormal researcher, and I think both devices that I brought to demonstrate in front of the students were both Austin's devices. So, yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad I'm always allowed to come to your locations because I love them all.
let's see. Thank you, Austin. We appreciate you. Austin did ask here what's the top three boxes you like to use on location. Is he referring to his own boxes or what's he referring to?
Well, if he's a good salesman, he is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know, like I said, I've always felt like my devices all have different personalities. So depending on where I'm at and how they sound in that location, um, it will depend on which device that I use. So that one becomes my that becomes my favorite device for that night. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, let's see. But other than that, man, I love all my devices. If I didn't love them, I wouldn't keep them. So, but
Right.
depending on the size of the location too, might deter whether or not I take more handheld devices versus some of the bigger boutique boxes that you have to
Hmm.
pack around. So,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
Prism is not conducive to walking around Waverly Hills with. I mean, we're talking like laptops and audio
Oh,
interfaces and
really?
stuff like that. So it's but as far as like the ghost boxes go, I can I have several handhelds that I really like.
Hmm.
Jay's device, Jay Prather, I have a couple of his of the direct links. I really love Andrew Openlander of Chicago Spirit Wave. I have several of his boxes as well. He's always been one of my favorite builders. So the Haltes, Steve and Katie, I mean, they are like ITC geniuses. As a matter of fact, I have one of Katie's devices right here, and I talked about devices, not trying to use like radio. I've experimented with all kinds of different ways of trying to, communicate. Can you see it on screen here?
Yep.
Yep.
And
That's
this
better.
is just like it's like a phonetic generator. And the cool thing about the way that Katie designed this one is not only does it have like the phonemes and the allophones that it goes through, it's like a CNC on steroids.
Mm.
But it also can do it in reverse speech. So she figured out a way to actually reverse all those just to make another layer of, interest when you are uh,
Mhm.
showing and you showing and giving like data and things that you have recorded. And just has like another level of credibility, I think, when it's reverse and you get a response in forward speech. It's like, whoa, that's pretty incredible. So
Hmm.
yeah, I there's so many different boxes I love, man. Really do.
Now, you and Brad were talking before the show. Were you going to show us and share some of your devices tonight? Like how they work and stuff?
Um, well, like the Phoenix, I could turn that on. I don't know how well it would translate. Let me see. Give you a sample of what these are like here. It sounds crazy, but if you got a message through that, you would be like, "Oh wow, that's
Hmm.
legit."
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear, but you can kind of hear like there's
Yeah,
like a.
I can turn it up a little bit. Just a
There we go.
little. We've even done some like Estes method experiments with this device, which has been kind of fun.
Oh wow,
And I've
that
had
would be
results
cool.
out of it. Yeah.
That would be neat. I'd be down to try
So,
that. I like the
yeah.
devices.
But Katie has on here, you can do like it's in reverse speech, you can do forward speech, you can do random effects, adjust the speaking rate. So, just like a fully adjustable, customized like ghost box, except there's no radio in this. So I just think it's a useful a tool to experiment with. It's not going to
Hmm.
be everybody's cup of tea. Trying to review that audio really takes a lot of effort, but when something pops and really jumps out, it's pretty undeniable
Yeah, when it
that
goes
it
from
was
just make random noises to an actual word, it makes.
or like a phrase, something bigger
Hmm.
than just a word.
Hmm.
See what else do I have handy here? I do have this one sitting here. This is one of the first, I think, 10 or 20 editions of the PRD 1000 made by Andrew Openlander. But this one's unique and different because later he came out with a device called the Radio Spectre.
Hmm.
And I sent him this PRD 1000 that I had, and I had him outfit it with the Radio Spectre board on the inside. So there's probably only like one like this in the world, but this has always been one of my favorite devices. This thing has been all over the world, and I made the mistake of letting it go once, and then I had to like hunt it down, and it took me forever to get it back. But Andy made some really cool devices. Um, I'll turn this one on for you guys, see if it might be charged up enough. Maybe. Hello? It's running, but it's really quiet right now. Uh, just a little bit.
See if I can hear anything.
It's running, but it's just being really quiet right now.
Camera shy.
Don't. Yeah, a little bit. Performance anxiety.
Performance anxiety for sure.
It happens. It happens.
Oh,
So yeah,
goodness.
those are just a couple of my devices.
That's awesome. I mean, I love that you have like alternative devices from what everybody gets. You know, the
Mhm.
it just goes to Go Stop, buys whatever is mass manufactured, and goes from there. So,
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. I actually like, I mean, I started off with just the, PSP 7.
mhm.
Just like most people that get or try ITC. I mean, that's kind of the standard. A buddy of mine, he has one of the S boxes made by like Ghost Stop.
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
And
I,
those are pretty good, man. Those are surprisingly loud. I couldn't believe the volume that those little boxes put out. So I don't have like a big beef with those devices. I mean, you can get responses with all of them, you know.
Mhm.
But I just like to see how far we can push things. Try to find new ways of communicating. Basically, a lot of the devices that I've really liked make it more and more difficult, I think, for like communication to come through. It's like every time you add a different effect or challenge, it's like it adds a level of credibility and validity to the responses when I get them. So that's when I got obsessed with like reverse speech audio and using like the ghost boxes that reverse the audio. And like I said earlier, when you get something in forward speech, that just to me made it resonate that much more. It's like, hey, that's for
Mhm.
real, you know?
Mhm. For sure.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so I've always been one to kind of look for those types of opportunities, and I've had incredible relationships with a lot of the builders out there, and have just they've been kind enough to allow me to get my hands on some of the coolest equipment
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
there. So, yeah,
awesome,
but
awesome. I know my time using the S box, Spirit box, I've always run it in reverse too. I always believed that was better option to run it in reverse.
well, I got to tell you something. That's not
Okay.
really the way that it works. That's not really the way
No?
that works.
That's
Okay.
No.
just it's just going through their it's just going through the radio
Yeah.
stations in reverse. The audio's still
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, it doesn't. When you look at an old manual radio and you have the dial that you turn, you
Yes.
turn the dial one way and it goes so far, and then you turn it
Hmm.
back the other way. That's essentially when you're scanning in reverse. That's essentially all that it's doing. Instead of going one way down the band, it's just going the opposite way. It
So
doesn't
it's not like the
actually.
words are backwards.
It doesn't reverse the words.
Okay.
So what I'm talking about is actually reversing the audio. So I mean,
Hmm.
essentially, if somebody says dog, you're going to hear God. You know what I mean?
Right,
So it,
right.
it completely flips it backwards. So, but
Maybe
a lot of
that's
people think that.
maybe that's the answer. Maybe ghosts are dyslexic.
Perhaps.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I like it.
I'm so glad that
Funny.
you you mentioned that because I guess I never really thought about it that way. I've always thought it's in reverse.
You're not the only person. I've been for the past couple of years doing a ITC workshop at the
Mhm.
Haunted America conference that Troy Taylor runs,
Mhm.
and in my workshop, that's probably been one of the most common things that
Mhm.
people didn't understand about their ghost box when it's in reverse. How it's not really reversing. So
Right, makes
Are you
sense.
are you
yeah,
doing that
yeah,
again this year? Are you doing the convention?
man. Uh, well, I was up until like 2 weeks ago, and
Oh,
I've had an opportunity drop on my lap that's going to take my ITC work to Europe. I've
oh
been
wow.
asked to. I've been
Congrats.
asked to be a, yeah, thanks. I've been asked to be a part of a documentary that's being produced in Austria, and I don't know if I can really like divulge all the details of
Yeah,
it,
yeah. You don't have to go
but
too deep, but that's cool.
yeah, but yeah, man, I'm hitting. I'm going across the pond to do ITC sessions, and so yeah, I'm just waiting on my plane ticket. So I'm pretty excited about that. But
Freaking awesome.
unfortunately, I'm going to miss the conference. I love that. I love that conference. I think it's probably one of the best in the nation.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
it's in Illinois, correct? Like
Yeah,
Alton.
right outside. Yep, right outside of or St. Louis. And Troy Taylor, man, he's just a phenom. I mean, that dude has written so many books and is so knowledgeable. Um, I highly recommend because it's almost like an educational symposium along
Hmm.
with all the fun of a paranormal
Convention.
conference with after hours workshops and investigations. And from our
Hmm.
area, it's not that far, man. So I definitely recommend
Yeah, I wanted to
checking
go.
out
I
that.
wanted to go so bad last year, and then it just didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah, fun stuff. Um, I do have Prism on. I could play you just a little bit of audio to kind of
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
hear
Yeah,
Prism
cool.
if we can get it loud enough. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Hello? Can you hear?
Yep, we can hear it too.
Can you guys say hi to Brad? Where's that?
Mhm.
Hello? Anybody available real quick to say hello? Hello?
Blink twice if he keeps you down in his basement.
Yeah, I don't know how well you guys can hear that right now, but it's like sitting here in person, sitting here in person, you hear so many layers too of voices. You hear like real whispery, like clear ones, then loud ones, and sometimes it almost sounds like the whispery voices are telling the louder voices what to say.
Hmm.
It's really, really trippy.
Hmm. Yeah, I need to come visit your cabin and uh, see this thing and hear this thing in person.
Yeah, it's a wild experience. When last year when I premiered it at the Haunted America conference, um, it started speaking in with a French accent.
Hmm.
And I was like, what is going on? I'm hearing this coming through Prism. And I didn't know it at the time, but a local investigator, it was being held in the Mineral Springs Hotel, which is a known haunted location. And at one
Hmm.
point, a Frenchman owned the Mineral Springs, and his name was Gus Ratz, which is a super weird name for a French guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But it started saying Gus Ratz. And me not having the historical knowledge of the Mineral Springs, it wasn't
Hmm.
making sense to me. But a guy that was at the in the conference, I mean, he picked up on that name and everything. So
Hmm.
it's crazy.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So the Prism requires a computer, is that right?
Two.
Two computers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
everything right now is portable. I mean, I'm using all laptops, but yeah, it takes two computers to run Prism.
Very cool.
That's not the end goal.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to haul two computers around, but
Right.
like I
Right.
said, it's still in its infancy. So eventually, it won't be.
It's like pre-beta.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the guy lugging around the giant VCRs and versus little small ones.
He's still real or Betamax.
Yeah,
Well, I will
absolutely.
say you did start investigating, you said in 2003, right? Was that
That's when I had
when
my
you got
first
into it?
That's when I had my first big
Right.
experience, but I didn't actively like I didn't even know at the time that there was like a methodology to like, pursue these things. And it wasn't until I met the Smith boys up in Indianapolis and I found
Mhm.
out that they would go to haunted locations together that I basically wormed my way in, and that was more like 2008.
Okay. Because I
Yeah.
wondered if you, because it seems like when we interview people who investigated way before the mainstream time or near the mainstream time, when Ghost Hunters came out, I know Ghost
Yeah.
Hunters had propelled the field in a way that's media driven, but I didn't know if you had any experiences prior to it becoming cool to ghost hunt. You know what I mean?
But
So
but
if you,
besides
the techniques
besides
would have been different.
Yeah, but besides reading books and learning about EVPs and so forth, I didn't really like actively pursue any of that. I didn't understand that, people would like go to people's homes and do those
Mhm.
types of things until, the TV shows came along. I was like, what in the heck are they doing,
You're welcome to
And
come to
so,
my
but
house anytime, Matt. My
yeah,
house will
but
my house will creep you the hell out because it does all kinds of stuff.
really. But
Yeah.
Craig and Todd Smith that I first started investigating with, I mean, they started doing this stuff as teenagers.
Yeah.
So that's why it was so interesting working with those guys, because when all this new stuff started coming out, they're like, "Whoa, what is this? This stuff's crazy," compared to what they were doing.
Hmm.
So
Right.
yeah, so it was a good experience. I think that's what kind of made my skepticism a little bit more balanced, working with guys who came from that background, pre-TV shows, versus just jumping in after I first see my first episode of Ghost Adventures.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And I wonder though, because I've been kind of playing with my theories and how I investigate. If do you think that these equipment, though beneficial to the investigation, can also be a distraction, and we are actually missing out because we're so tuned into our devices at the investigation that we're missing out what's really going on around us? Do you think
100%.
it's a benefit, or do you think it's a distraction? You think it could be both?
It depends on your intentions.
Yeah.
If you go into an environment and all you're trying to do is get that reel for your TikTok, it's all about the equipment because you got to
Hmm.
let
Right.
the equipment be the star of the show.
Yep. You need all the
Whereas
flashing
if
lights and the sounds and
yeah,
the noises and
yeah,
the ringing and the bells.
exactly. But if you just go in those environments, that's why I learned years ago. Like I've probably been to Waverly Hills maybe like 10 times.
Wow.
I've learned just to let the equipment go because you miss out on so much of the opportunity and the experience. I mean, what's it cost? Like $1,000 to walk
What?
around Waverly Hills, and you're gonna waste your freaking time looking at a little blue screen when there's
Right.
so much that could be happening around you. It's just like turn that shit off and just sit there at the end of a hallway and be quiet,
And
and
watch.
then you might learn something about paranormal phenomena that way. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a huge distraction. But there's that whole side of the paranormal that's all they know, and I think they're just really missing out on a lot of opportunities because they're so concerned about their YouTube numbers. Yeah, but that being said, I mean, I love a lot of the ITC stuff where you can just turn on the audio, but still be aware of what's going on around you. And I've never focused on video that much anyway, and especially
Yeah.
once I got rid of that SLS camera. But yeah, man, I agree with that sentiment 100%.
Awesome. Now
Yeah.
it sounds like you've been to
Thanks.
a lot of locations, if I'm not mistaken. Joseph is asking, is there any places you haven't gone to, maybe you want to go to?
It says
Like
haven't
places you
enjoyed
haven't
going to. Enjoyed going to any
Oh,
places you.
enjoy. I
enjoyed going
misread it.
to.
I'm sorry. I mean, I guess both
Uh,
questions. Is there anything on bucket list or anything you didn't really enjoy?
um, man, I hate to like throw a location under the bus because
Oh,
my experience could be totally different from someone else's. Like, what's that place in Atlanta, Indiana?
The roads.
Um,
Roads
yeah,
That's
or
okay.
Roads.
after Walton? There's two.
Yeah, yeah. It was the Roads. I went there one night and, lots of stories about the place, and it was totally quiet. So, I mean, I could say, well, that was a bust, but, and realistically, I don't expect paranormal phenomena to be performative. So if I
Right,
go
right.
on a night that's quiet, it just kind of validates someone else's experience when they go there and, they get possessed and I levitate. So more power
Yeah.
to them, So, I've appreciated something, even if it's just being able to sit in a historic, building. So I've always appreciated, locations I've been to. Bucket list wise, I've always had this thing for Pinhurst.
Mm.
I've always wanted to go there for some reason, but um, yeah, I don't know, man. At this point, I just want to get out there and do the work. This whole European trip coming up is going to, I think, be pretty mind blowing. The places
Hmm.
I'm going to go there, but yeah, we'll see, man.
Very cool.
Yeah, super
Now,
excited about it.
is your YouTube still active? Like, are you posting videos and all that of what you're doing? Because I know you have YouTube. What other
Yeah,
social can we find you at?
well, I have two, well, really kind of three sites that I run. Everything that's like ITC centric that I'm focused on, just the what ifs and the maybes and the how to's on ITC is called Obscuravox. And Obscuravox, that's where I'm posting like all my most of my Prism videos and so forth. But Paraholics is still active. If you go to www.paraholics.com, I don't have all my posts up yet from my old site. I'm still transposing and bringing those over, but all the videos are still on that YouTube channel that's married to that site. So
And
Awesome.
I'm on two of those videos.
that's right. Absolutely. The ones with thousands and thousands and thousands of views. Those are
Yeah, they
Brad's.
do. One's got like 4,000, and the other one's got like six. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're going to be famous, Brad. Look at you
Yep,
go.
that's me.
Star Power Ed. Hashtag Brad.
Hashtag Brad
That's
Chemical.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, it's really been a pleasure getting to know you, and Brad
Yeah,
has
thank
only
you.
said good things about you, like I told you before the show, and so I was
Unreal,
really
unreal.
interested. I'm telling the truth, I promise.
Yeah, it's
um,
nice to finally get on chat with you guys. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
If you want to come back sometime, you're always welcome, man.
All right, I appreciate it.
absolutely. So I will definitely be making a move over to your website to see what else you got on there with ITC and everything else, because this sounds like a very interesting concept. I really like it. So I
Yeah, if you
appreciate
go
you
if you
sharing.
yeah, if you go to my latest post on Obscuravox, that
Mhm.
Prism in the Candlelight House, that showcases my latest session with Prism, and yeah, I'd love some feedback if you get a chance to watch it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody that jumped in here and said hello. We appreciate you, Brad, always. It
Yep,
was
yep.
a pleasure speaking with
Yep.
everybody tonight. Go ahead. I do have his link to his website, Paraholics, in there. Go ahead, check him out. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff, guys. We appreciate you all. We hope you all
Yep,
have a great rest of your night.
yep. See you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Cheers.